This video covers capabilities of the Vendor Risk Management application and shows you how to get started using the application. Link timecodes for these topics appear in the YouTube description for this video. The Vendor Risk Management application is part of the Governance, Risk, and Compliance portfolio on the Now platform. It provides a centralized process for managing and reducing your vendor risk. Let's take a closer look at its capabilities. Vendor Portfolio is the cornerstone of vendor risk management. You may have a lot of vendors that your company works with, but your vendor portfolio is a select database of vendors you want to manage, including critical vendor contacts you interact with and business services that these vendors fulfill. You onboard these vendors by importing from an Excel spreadsheet or via an integration with another third-party onboarding system and update them as needed. You can also import them from your vendor table. Next, you classify the vendors in your portfolio with vendor tiering based on the potential risk they pose. Here's how. When you onboard a new vendor, internal stakeholders complete vendor tier risk assessments, and the system calculates its initial risk tier. You can also use input from third-party security scores from security score providers to help you more accurately monitor your vendors. You can manually change the vendor tier based on a vendor's security performance. Automated security score rules can detect security performance changes and automatically send out a new risk assessment. Next, you need input from the vendor as well, so you send an initial vendor risk assessment to the vendor's primary contact. You can schedule these assessments to repeat on a regular basis or send them on demand as needed. You can also send them automatically based on changes to a vendor risk score or vendor tier. We'll see how to set that up shortly. Vendor Risk Management provides tools for managing these external assessments. You can create templates for your assessments with a visual designer interface called the Risk Assessment Designer and vary the content and recurrence interval based on the risk tiers of your vendors. You can also create questionnaires using the Risk Assessment Designer or configure the Standard Information Gathering Questionnaire, or SIG, provided in the base system for your own needs. Assessment responses are automatically scored using a scoring framework that you can also configure. Assessments are delivered in the vendor portal, which provides the primary interface for vendors and risk assessors to collaborate on assessments. We'll take a closer look in a moment. When assessments reveal gaps, internal stakeholders generate issues to remediate them. All issues and remediations are also coordinated through the vendor portal. The vendor data generated in the Vendor Risk Management application integrates back to the other GRC applications, providing traceability for compliance with controls and risks. Risks defined in the Vendor Risk Management application can be monitored, along with other risks to the enterprise, in the Risk dashboard. Here's an example. A vendor risk assessment reveals that a vendor is not complying with a new requirement to ensure stronger passwords, and an issue is raised in the Vendor Risk Management application. The control for that vendor is flagged as non-compliant. Its risk score is raised, and it displays in the risk dashboard. We've explained the process, so let's talk about how we can increase productivity through automation. What if the vendor tier changes later due to an issue with an assessment? Here's how to automatically submit an assessment to a vendor when its vendor tier changes. Logged in as the Vendor Risk Manager, we can create a new tier-based submission rule. You can create a submission rule for a particular vendor or leave the vendor field blank for the rule to apply to all vendors, like we have here. With the values we selected here, all vendors will automatically receive the security assessment for critical risk when they reach the critical tier threshold. Now let's see this from a different perspective, as a vendor contact receiving a new assessment in the vendor portal. Here's the list of all assessments, with an auto-generated risk assessment appearing at the top of the list. It displays the status of each and the number of questionnaires and document requests completed for each assessment. The Issues page shows all of the issues submitted by your company for the vendor and their status. The primary vendor contact can assign an open issue to another contact within their company right here from the Issues list or within the issue record itself. Here are the issue details with any attachments and associated tasks. Here we have one task in progress and one that's been submitted to the vendor, and tasks can also be assigned to another collaborator. All communications about this issue are recorded here and are displayed in real time. And here, back in the platform, our Vendor Risk Manager can view the vendor's comments within the issue record. For more information, please see our product documentation, knowledge base, or podcast, or ask a question in the ServiceNow community.